Jeremy is going to share all of his stuff about scuba diving in and around Door County. And I got a sneak peek because this is really fantastic stuff that he's got here. So I am going to, this is Miss Beth from the Door County Library. Hello, welcome. And and welcome to Jeremy, who is going to be doing the presentation tonight, all about diving, scuba diving around Door County. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will let Jeremy take it away.
All right, I think I have my camera straightened out. Thanks everybody for joining me, even my sister. So tonight's presentation, as Beth stated, is about scuba diving and what it's about and around what can be done around the Door County area. Let me see. So what is scuba? Scuba is an acronym. It stands for self-contained underwater breathing apparatus, or some might say some come up barely alive, but it's actually underwater breathing apparatus. Modern scuba as we know it today was by but there's so much more to it than just the equipment and its history.
I can hear you typing, Jeremy.
Yeah. As an engineer, I enjoy the technical side of the sport. That helps us see. We have to wear masks. We have special equipment that helps us float. You have to wear a buoyancy device. There's equipment we have to wear. There's little to do. And full mass. A great way to great thing to enjoy. Scuba is nature. You know, we see a lot of marine life, a lot of varied marine life, depending on where we go. And the history, which is largely what I want to talk with. We visit 150-year-old intact wooden wrecks. The cold water, the Great Lakes preserves these wrecks in just an amazing condition.
Jeremy, your mic is cutting in and out. We've got about half of what you've said.
Okay. Thanks, Beth. Is this better?
This is much better.
I'll move it a little closer to my face and push in on the mic button. So again, scuba's history. Only here in the Great Lakes can we visit intact 150-year-old wooden shipwrecks. You know, the cold waters and the still bottoms of our lakes do such a fantastic job of preserving them. You know, back in the 60s, there was even an attempt to raise a wreck. It was actually stationed in Marinette for a number of years until it disintegrated. Maybe a little bit more on that later. So, you know, Door County shipwrecks. This is a map of the wrecks that I have location coordinates for in and around our Door County area. You know, there's quite a few here. There are many more yet to be discovered. There are an estimated 6,000 shipwrecks in the Great Lakes, and only 2,500 of them approximately have actually been located. With our water temps at the depth averaging in the upper 30s to low 40s, the Great Lakes offers the only place in the world that we can see these wrecks in this state. This next section, I'm going to go over some of the shipwrecks that we can dive and snorkel and actually access directly from shore without a boat right here in the Sturgeon Bay and Door County area. Right here in Sturgeon Bay, we have several wrecks that can be snorkeled or dove directly from shore. Off of Bullhead Point on the south edge of our bay are the wrecks of the Oak Leaf. That's this one, the Ida Corning, and the Empire State. These wrecks are in shallow water, with the outward side of the Empire State being the deepest at about 12 to 15 feet. This area is popular with local fishermen. Be careful of snagged lures and lines if you snorkel or dive here, and it can also get a little bit weedy as the summer wears on. The Oak Leaf right here, when the water was lower a couple of years ago, is actually sticking out of the water. That'll give you an idea of how shallow that particular one is. Earlier in the spring with the cooler water, these make for a fantastic dive, and it's real easy access right off of the point at Bullhead Point. A little history on those three wrecks. The Oak Leaf was constructed in 1866 in Cleveland, Ohio. It was originally 130 feet by 32 feet. Was reconstructed in 1886 and converted to a barge, and they added 30 feet in length. It was then purchased by the Sturgeon Bay Stone Company in 1906, and it was abandoned at the Bullhead Point Wharf in 1928. And then it was burned to the waterline and sunk on location to keep local people from, I guess in the day it was quite a popular swimming location where people would come and swim off of these wrecks, and the Sturgeon Bay Stone Company burned them to the waterline to eliminate the what they deemed as a hazard, potential litigation. The next ship in that row of three is the Ida Corning. It was built in Saginaw, Michigan in 1881 as a Grand Haven rig. It's 2 masts, 4 and a mizzen mast. It was 168 feet by 31 feet, and it was constructed to haul lumber. It was sold to the Sturgeon Bay Stone Company in 1908, and again converted to a barge to haul stone, and abandoned at Bullhead Point Wharf in 1928, and was burned to the waterline with the other 2 ships and sunk intentionally in 31. And then the last of the 3 was the Empire State. It was launched in 1862 by the Buffalo firm of Mason and Bidwell as a passenger freight and propeller steamer. Passengers were carried above deck and the cargo below. It was outfitted with a new prototype 2-cylinder steam engine in 1867, which demonstrated a 21% savings in fuel over conventional steam power. It has a unique history with the Sturgeon Bay area. It actually transported the Carnival of Morrison Berger to this area in 1902, and it ended its career as a steamer in 1906 when it was damaged by an engine room fire. After the damage, it was purchased again by Sturgeon Bay Stone in 1910, used to haul stone, and then settled to the bottom at Bullhead Point. It's the outer of the 3 wrecks. It was pumped out, replaced into service, and then scuttled in its current resting position in 1916 to extend the end of the wharf. On the other side of the bay, over at Penny Park, are 2 wrecks. So the first being the Joseph Hurd. It's right off of the entrance to the boat launch right here. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong screen right here. The wreck is marked just outside the Penny Park boat launch by 3 buoys. It's at 16 to 17 feet. Visibility is generally pretty good here, but being near the boat launch, you need to watch out for boat traffic if you're swimming here. It's highly advisable to tow a float, even if just swimming, because the boats can see you. This was built in 1869 in Detroit, Michigan, as a passenger steamer package freighter, and later converted to carry lumber and freight. It's converted to a steam barge in 1898, and then as it deteriorated in its age, it converted to a barge to carry stone in 07. It broke free from its moorings in 1913 while partially loaded, and then was beached and abandoned where it remains today. And then just a little bit down the beach from there So here's the herd and the parking lot at Penny Park. If you swim just on the beach is the Vermilion. It's located along the shore to the southeast of the park. The port side of the ship is visible and it's a fantastic good snorkel or dive. You enter from the southeast corner of the parking lot and swim along the shore. And again, watch out for boaters and fishermen. I don't have any photos, but recommend this. It's a large section of the port side from the upper deck down towards the water line are easily visible. Built in 1887 in Trenton, Michigan as the Gilchrist. It was renamed the Vermilion in 1904. I couldn't find much further history on the Vermilion other than it was dismantled and sold in Milwaukee in 1915. And in 1917 was brought to Sturgeon Bay by Latham and Smith and burned at the water's edge where it lies to burned to the water's edge to convert to a stone carrier and sank in her moorings in 1920. And in 1923, it was raised and moved to Smith Quarry where it rests today and used as a break wall for the stone quarry up above. Up in the northern part of the county is one of the most popular snorkeling shore dives in our county. It's located just to the east of the Garrett Bay kayak launch in 5 to 25 feet of water. The visibility is generally pretty good here with warmer water in late summer. It makes for a good swim in July and August. The Fleetwing was built in 1867 in Manitowoc, so it's a Wisconsin boat. It was 132 feet long, 28 feet wide, and had, I don't know, the file I looked up said it has 2 masts, but the photo that I've got of it shows 3. Sailed the Great Lakes for 21 years as a grain clipper. Then it began running lumber from Chicago in 1880. It ran aground in September of 88 when the captain mistook a southern bluff for Table Bluff in the fog and made the turn for Death Door Passage too soon and ran it hard into the beach in Garrett Bay. And that's why it's right up against the beach. It's probably no more than 15 feet off of shore. It's a great snorkel site. Another one that's not quite as popular, not talked about as much, are the Reynolds Pier wrecks off of Jacksonport. There's 2 ships out here off of the old pier, the Cecilia and the Perry Hannah. On a calm day or when prevailing winds are out of the west, these wrecks can make for a fantastic snorkel or shallow dive from shore. Located in shallow water, almost due east from the end of Lake Drive. So right here is Lake Drive next to the park. If you follow that road out and then just a little bit down towards the south, you can see where the Cecilia Hill and the Perry are. And then this debris field is the remains of the old Reynolds Pier. And then up here is actually a section of the deck off the top of the Reynolds Pier that's floated away. The 2 wrecks, the Cecilia was built in 1868 and it was rebuilt as a schooner in 79. It was wrecked on September 8th in Jacksonport where it had been loading a cargo of lumber, but they moved it offshore to weather a storm and the anchors dragged and didn't hold. And it was thrown up onto the beach on the south side of the pier. And from what I read, that did quite a bit of damage to the pier in the process. The Perry Hannah was a wooden 2-masted schooner built in 1859 in Newport, Michigan. It was rebuilt and lengthened for different cargo in 1862, 63. Sank in a gale on October 16, 1880 when it was driven ashore and into the Reynolds Pier. Also doing quite a bit of damage from what I understand. And today it lies in 6 feet of water intermingled. It's right on top of the Cecilia. The 2 wrecks are together. And in this view down here, we show a Wisconsin Underwater Archaeological Society map of the wreck site. I believe that this section right here, I believe, is the Cecilia. And maybe this is the Perry here, or this is the Perry. There it is. It says vessel 2. And out here in the right conditions, we get fantastic visibility. This video was shot 3 weekends ago when we went out with a group from Green Bay Scuba on a Wednesday night dive. This is some of the old pier. And the sand moves in and out at this location. So you see there are different things to see, different seasons and different times of the year, depending on how the sand is moved. Sometimes you'll find old bottles and old tools. We found pieces of an old Model T truck that's buried in the sand out there at one point. And sometimes the shipwrecks are buried in the sand. Sometimes, like this year, they are well exposed. It makes for some fantastic diving this time of year. That's probably the best of the highlights for the shore diving that we have around the Door County area. I'll talk a little bit here about some of the diving we do offshore. I've got a couple of my favorite wrecks. I don't go into a whole lot of detail on all of them. Maybe I should have. The Frank O'Connor is my favorite wreck. I love taking new divers out on this one. It offers a spectacular display of its prop, its engine and its boilers, which I'll show on the next page. It was originally built as the city of Naples in 1892. It is as a 301 foot long, 21 foot wide bulk carrier. It is one of the largest wooden freighters to ever sail the Great Lakes. It was sold to Tonawanda Iron and Steel in 1914. And in 1916 was purchased by Captain James L. O'Connor, who renamed it after his son, Frank. As the Frank O'Connor, it operated profitable during World War I. The ship's namesake perished in the war. So his son Frank perished in World War I on May of 18. 17 months later, on October 2nd, the ship caught fire and it sank approximately 2 miles off of Cano Island Lighthouse, where we love to dive it today. And here's some of the imagery from some of our recent dives. Right on this first image right here, you see the two large boilers and a section of the triple expansion steam engine sticking up in front of them. And this next picture is pictures from the stern, obviously with the large prop exposed. One of my favorite things to do with a new diver is to come out here. There's a large machinist wrench. It's probably 3 feet, 4 feet long. It weighs probably every bit of 30 pounds. It's usually laying on the bottom somewhere near this prop off of what's left of the rudder right here. And I'll hand them that wrench and I'll hang on to it. And I get a picture of them with that huge wrench, that prop in the background. This is the current site plan mapped out by the Underwater Archaeological Society. As you can see, there's quite a bit to see here. Back here's where the rudder is, the prop and the rudder laying back here. There's quite a bit of a debris field, the sides of the ship. There's an anchor cap or a capstan here and a winch, and then a debris field up front where it went down nose first. There's some anchor chains and an anchor up there if you can make them out amongst the zebra mussels. This makes for a very interesting dive. There's a lot to see. And here's a picture of my nephew with that wrench with the prop, and then the anchor winch up towards the bow. Yeah, it's a lot of fun going out on this one. And get this image with the diver and the two boilers kind of gives a real good sense of what the scale is. One of my other favorite wrecks out here, just because of the level of preservation, is the Jenny Bell. That's located off the southwest corner of Chambers Island. It's in about 115 feet of water. It's a two-masted 110-foot schooner built in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. So it's another Wisconsin vessel. It plied the lumber trade until September 17 of 1881. On that day, it left Egg Harbor with a hold full of hemlock and a deck full of bark. It sailed north, was capsized by a sudden squall from the south, where it was spotted by the tug Gregory and took them in tow towards Sturgeon Bay, but the weather got worse and it sank just southeast of Chambers Island. Today it sits upright in 105 feet, largely intact, with the exception of the stern. The stern was broken off in an independent lifting attempt by the crew of Frank Hoffman, who later raised the Alvin Clark, or the infamous, the mystery ship out of that was in dock in Marinette for the number of years. When they tried to lift it, they got the lifting cables up underneath it, and then the lifting cable at the rear pulled up through the deck and broke the stern of the ship off, and it settled back down towards the bottom. When I first dove this one, the mast was still standing on it, still standing straight up. It had since tipped over to one side. The ship, the neat thing with this one being cut clear through from the bottom is you can see how the cargo is stacked. In this photo, it's a picture of one of our local divers, but this area is the actual hemlock stacked down in the cargo hold, and you can see that. There's a large number of artifacts here. There's some log handling equipment stacked on the deck, some old antique jugs from the era. Just a really fantastic wreck to go see. Unfortunately, being out in Green Bay, as the season wears on, we get our algae bloom, which doesn't allow the light to penetrate. And even in the middle of the day, most of the time in late summer, this becomes kind of a night diver. You need powerful lights to be able to see. The visibility is usually pretty good, but it's just very dark. Definitely more of an advanced dive, not something I would recommend for beginning divers, but definitely worth working up to. And the last of the three wrecks, the three offshore wrecks I think I'm going to talk about tonight is the Ocean Wave. This one is located just off of Whitefish Bay. It was built in 1860 as a two-masted scow schooner in Harson's Island, Michigan. It was used for maritime trading until 1869, where it was sold and moved to Lake Michigan, where it carried a variety of cargo, such as limestone. It sank in September 23rd in 1869 with a load of stone when heavily laden. It hit a piece of submerged timber, which broke in the front end and sent it down fairly rapidly. This ship has a unique feature that we don't see on most of these wooden boats in Lake Michigan. Is it actually has a carved figurehead on the bowsprit. So it's got this carved wooden eagle. It's unique, and it's something interesting to see. And this is another one that the sand moves in and out to different seasons, different years. There's different things that are available to see. It's always worth revisiting. And I guess that's about the end of my presentation. I'm open to questions. I'd like to special shout out to Dennis Mullen for the use of some of his photos, James Gill for the use of some of his videos, and WisconsinShipwrecks.org for the information and site maps. At this point, any questions on the wrecks or what we can see out here in the Door County area around Sturgeon Bay and Lake Michigan? If you have questions, fill them out in the text section in the chat window. Everybody's muted, and I don't think I can turn anybody on. Stephanie asked, do I have any wrecks that I have not explored that I would like to? Yeah, there's one out of Sturgeon Bay that's a little bit beyond my rating to get out to. I would love to go out and see. There's the wreck of the Lakeland, directly out in Lake Michigan, out of the Sturgeon Bay Ship Canal. It's down in 200 feet. It's rumored that it was actually an insurance fraud, and that the shuttlecock or the cocks were pulled and it was sank out there. But it was sank just prior to the Great Depression, and it's got a pristine load of cars in the hold that are accessible, a load of Nashes. It's supposed to be a fantastic wreck, but being at 200 feet, it's beyond recreational limits. I've got another couple levels of training I need to go through to get out on that one. Any other questions? Stephanie also asked, are there any wrecks that are expected to have treasures or gold? Interesting you should ask that. There is a legend of the lost Poverty Island gold up on the northern tip of the peninsula. If you go past Washington Island and Rock Island, then there's St. Martin Island. As you get up into the upper peninsula of Michigan, there's the next island is Poverty Island. There's a lighthouse on it, and legend has it that back during the Civil War era, the Confederates were trying to ship gold down to resistance forces in the north, and the ship went down in a squall. And legend has it that the lighthouse keeper's son saw a salvage vessel raise the gold or raise chests up onto a ship, which he later saw sink in a squall off to the west. There was a gentleman that I saw at the Maritime Festival here just this last weekend that had his submarine that had been searching for it since 1969. It has supposedly never been found, so it's still out there somewhere. Would you want to cut through the ice to see these? I do ice dive. It is quite a production to ice dive. It takes quite a crew. We've got to cut a large triangular hole in the ice. It requires ropes managers, safety divers. It usually takes about a minimum of 10 people to run an ice dive. But we do it in the winter. Nathan wants to know if you can keep the treasure if you find it. That is a very interesting question. I'm sure the federal government would have a lot to say about it if you actually announced you found it, which brings up some other interesting rumors about the gentleman that supposedly didn't find it. Rumor has it he mysteriously just quit his search and moved out to Hawaii and started a company out there, and nobody knows where he got the money from. So who knows?
Are there any other questions? Does anybody have any more questions? I know that we've got two families viewing. Oh, thank you very much for that. And, you know, Jeremy does a great job. So if you guys don't have any additional questions, then let's see. Shameless plug, that's how to contact Jeremy down at the bottom of the page. So if you have any other questions, oh, because his sister is the other one, so he's okay.
Yes. Yeah, I've been trying to talk my sister into diving for years, so there's much sibling trauma probably involved in her not wanting to dive with me, but someday.
Oh goodness. So yes, if you have any other questions, he has been very, very kind and has given us lots and lots of details. So if you have any other questions, then contact Jeremy directly. And thank you all so much for coming today.